Hello, one and all. Thank you for joining us for the next amazing installment of Grips monthly webinar. And this month, we've got something very exciting for you. We're talking about love. Yeah, it's not Valentine's Day. We're nowhere near February. The weather's getting better, but we wanted to talk about love anyway. And we want to talk about attendee love, how to make your attendees fall in love with your event. And what do we mean by that? Well, attendees are arguably the most important part of your event.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, without attendees, without quality attendees, you haven't got sponsors, you haven't even got exhibitors because they've got no one to go and meet. So at GRIP, we talk about participants, and participants include sponsors, exhibitors, attendees. I have banned our panelists from talking about sponsors and exhibitors for this webinar. We are just talking about attendees because we think they're very, very important. So I've mentioned our amazing panelists, and now I am going to get them to introduce themselves. First of all, we have got Abby from GRIP. Abby, please tell us a bit about yourself and what you've been up to recently.
Hello, attendees. So yeah, my name's Abby. I'm senior account manager for GRIP, and I've worked in events on both the organizer side and on the supplier side for around, it's probably 18 years now. So attended a fair few in that time. And yeah, hoping to bring some of my experiences, not just from working with my own clients at GRIP, but from when I worked at Slido and when I've worked on the organizer side for, hopefully speaking the language that you all understand.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. We've got one industry legend in Abby, and we've got another industry legend who's a first time. Well, there you go. I mean, is it the time we calculate that you turned you into a legend?
Yeah. I mean, 15 years in an industry. Yeah. I mean, going back to the love story, I love working in events. I've done lots of different roles in my life, and the events industry, everybody around our table, all of our staff, they all love going to events, working events. It's high pressure. There's tight deadlines. You can't come back and say, we'll do that tomorrow, because tomorrow is the event going live. So very important that we're there. My name's Mark, by the way, Mark Jones, founder, CEO of Giant iTab, purveyors and pioneers of the Giant smartphone, which essentially is an interactive device to create interactive experiences for events and give customers and visitors to the show a beautiful interactive experience and provide them with information to get the best out of their day.
Great. And I see a few in the background. What's the biggest one you do? How big is it? Go on, astound
we do
me.
a 55-inch. We do a small, medium, and large. I've got the small here, the medium behind me, and there's a medium here, and there's a larger one in the corner. 55-inch, which is pretty much the extent that you can touch a screen and still see the content. Anything bigger, and you can't see what you're doing. So 55-inch is the biggest, and we brought out a new portable, which is a 22-inch year before last at Convex. So
brilliant. Well, sign me up for the 55. I'll get many of those for my flat. That'd be lovely. Right. So let's get into it. Abby, I want to talk to you about attendee love. Why is this concept so vitally important for organisers?
So I think we all know this. It's quite difficult to attract new attendees. It's still difficult to keep them, but really it's preventing your attendee base from churning. You want people who feel committed to the event, that they want to attend year on year, that they feel part of your brand and the experiences that you create. And I think that that's so important for building this community. And I'm sure that we all know events that have a very deep connection within their community. Event tech industry, we're all very connected to one another and feel committed to the events that we go to frequently. So having attendees love your event is going to make sure that they keep coming back and have the best time.
It's all about retention, isn't it? Because it costs you 5 times more to get a new attendee to come to your event than just ensure you get the existing one to keep coming back. And plus, I find that, if you've got attendee who absolutely loves your event, they're going to become an advocate. So it's going to be free marketing because they're going to be posting on social media every time you do a new event. They're going to be bringing their friends. Word of mouth is the best form of marketing. So really, it's going to reduce your customer acquisition cost or attendee acquisition cost, which should hopefully then reduce your sponsors and exhibitor costs because They'll just come because they know the best quality attendees at your event. Mark, let's dig into this a little bit, this concept, because you talked about engagement a lot, you know, having tech on the show floor, having, you know, the right tools there to make sure that, you know, help is where people need it, so that, you know, they're getting to the end of their show and they love you, rather than they're getting to the end of your show and going, that was rubbish. I hate that show. I'm going to tell everyone how rubbish it is. So tell me a bit about what you've seen in terms of attendee love at the shows that you've been present at.
It's about giving the people what they want. You know, people come to these shows to collaborate and talk with each other on a human level. If we take our minds back to the horrible time during COVID, everybody missed seeing each other. And as soon as that was over, I think the first show was Confex, where we all collaborated. It's like, hi, how are you? Lovely to see you. That whole experience of sharing an environment with friends and colleagues that you know and love, and you know, taking that to the next level. What have you been doing? How are you getting on? What are you working on? That human nature that we, you know, we're a collective breed of people who like to spend time with each other. So having an opportunity like an event to bring people together in the same space, in the same environment where they have shared experiences, is a very great way of collaborating and of bringing people in, new people and old people as well. But of course, you can't just stick them in a room with no windows and expect them to have to love the experience. You have to give them things to do, things to see, and ways in which they can interconnect with each other. And tech is a great driver for human interaction and engagement, particularly the tech that's available today.
So what examples have you seen when it comes to tech? You know, you talked earlier about you know, show floor plans, you know, being available for people at the point of where they actually need it.
Yeah. Well, interactive touchscreens are available from lots of different suppliers. They're all extremely good. We take that one step further and we add the aesthetic of a smartphone look and feel. And that makes the product more familiar and more favorable. So people, there's fear, we remove that fear factor. So having those around the show floor gives people a point of touch that they can come and interact and look at the information that's available, be that a grip app, or be it a floor plan, or be it a wayfinder, or even a speaker schedule. This information is all available in a digital format, and we're able to just take that and drop it straight onto a giant smartphone and make it accessible to people around the show. People are coming to the show, they're often in a hurry, they may not, probably I think a large percentage won't have downloaded the app. So having the app available on a giant touchscreen around the show floor gives people a point of engagement, something to do. Not everybody comes with other groups of people. Some people are generally quite loners by nature, and they like to have technology and pieces to interact with and engage with. And obviously to find out more information. It's all about giving them the information at their fingertips in a live format, so it's correct information that they can have a look at and make the most of their day. And that's really what the tech around the show floor does exactly for them.
I can see you're going to jump in there, Abby.
I am, yeah, if that's okay. I just wanted to say that, you know, I think Mark's on something there, which is that, you know, having this information, smoothing that journey for the participant, basically, making sure that their journey through, you know, from arrival all the way through to their experiences while they're there. We're obviously talking about the live event itself. I mean, I think actually, you know, attendee love starts far before that. But by the time they're there, it's sort of walking a mile in their shoes, really. Sometimes it is a mile, feels like WTM, you know, around the show floor. And I think you have to really think about how they are engaging with your event from beginning to end. So having a think about, I remember at Reed doing a project with AID where we literally took the attendee journey around the show floor. So what are they going to do? What are your personas? What are they likely to want to do? And mapping out that whole journey of where they might need people like Mark and the giant iTabs. Equally, where are the cafes? How are they interacting with the cafes? Where are there likely to be queues? Where are they, you know, smoothing this journey, making sure there's no kind of bottlenecks, you know, literally in terms of, you know, aisles and things like that, but also bottlenecks in terms of blockers to them getting to where they want to be or doing what they want to do, what they've come there for, their objective, is really, really key. So that planning with your team in advance on how people are going to behave, and then adjusting your show floor and the experiences they're in according to what you know they're going to want to do and see.
I remember, Abby, we did some work with you back in the day with the oil and gas show in Aberdeen, I think it was, Aberdeen, and you asked us to do back-end analytics on the units, and that was quite insightful. Just tell us, because it helped you understand where placement of the tech was best served and where it wasn't really having much of a benefit.
Yeah, so I think that's really important as well, is to test things out. You know, we're event organizers and we don't like to, to have anything go wrong. But it's also good to do some assessment of where you're trying new things, and getting an understanding of whether they're working or not. So we kind of, we were lucky enough to be, I was working on the innovation team, and we were lucky enough to have enough budget to have probably more tech than we needed. So more, giant smartphones than we needed, but we did some assessment on the positioning of those and where it worked well and where it didn't, so that next time we can cut that budget right down and only have, I mean, sorry, Mark, for your profit margins, but but actually, it's better to have, these bits of tech or these points that add value, rather than just blanketing an event and not really thinking about what people are actually going to do. And I think the surprising one that we found at the time was that actually, screens in registration areas were not really that used, because people just wanted to get into the event, get their badge, get in, and so really, again, it was about us understanding that flow of traffic and how people want to engage with the event, that gave us that data, and obviously the data from the screens as well, but getting an understanding of where, how people behave and what is good for them. And again, if you can add value to your participants at the points when they need it, then they're gonna love your event, because it's just easy. I think that's the thing. It's just about really just simplifying their journey.
And I guess removing that frictions all comes in the planning. So I'd just like you to break down for our audience how you did that. So you and another industry legend, Allenby. Why hasn't he been on our webinar yet? I do not know. I'm going to email him straight after this. How did you practically do that? Was it like a massive wall and you put post-it notes on it? Did you do it in a software platform? How did you map out every single stage of the attendee journey?
Great big drawing, actually. We created Mr. Reed, his name was, and he was a little mascot guy. He looked like a light bulb. I'd still got him on a t-shirt. So, but yeah, we created that him as a person. Like, where is he going? Like, what are the touch points along his journey? And like I was saying before, we're not just talking about at the live event. We're talking about before then. Where are they going to, how is this person, how's Mr. Reed finding out about the event? How easy is it to register? When they register, how do you keep them committed to coming? Making sure there's no attrition on people signing up and then not attending. But really just looking at all of those little points that, from the point of planning, the point that somebody's hearing about the event, all the way through to post-event, it's one long flow. The actual attendance at the event is just one part of it, because the love, the commitment to attend is built in advance. The commitment to attend next year as well is also built directly post-event. So, keeping that flow going of every touch point you might have with this person, smoothing the journey, as I say. Sorry, I'm going to get boring on that shortly, but it really is just living how that person is interacting with the brand at every opportunity.
Walking a mile in their shoes. I love it. That's a good way to do it. Right. Go on, Mark. I think
I was just saying, I mean, in terms of tracking, we work with some really good tech people, everything from AI, coming from George B. Johnson down to, small independent developers. We're working with one at the moment who creates these beacon technology that allows you to track people. I mean, the supermarkets have been doing it for ages, but allows you, for example, at venues such as zoos and amusement parks, where there's a bottleneck, they can send people messages and ask them to move on and not only track them, but send them notifications. So if there's lots of people, for example, at the polar bear stuck part of the zoo, they can send a little message, polar bears on special offer in the zoo shop today. So it's about recognizing, using technology to identify the positive nature of people's behavior and the negative if there's bottlenecks, and adapt that through messaging to make that group of people move in a certain way around the show floor and around the arena that you're working in.
I think that's a really great point that you make there, which is, you know, being able to positively impact, taking that data and being able to positively impact the experiences actually live, you know, rather than post event. And that data analysis is that sort of live data that you're able to get to sort of go, actually, we need to do something different now. And equally at trade shows, I know Mark from Crowd Connected, he, you know, he talks about sort of, is there a big queue? Can you see a load of people there? Right, go and send a coffee cart over there to deal with the, you know, like the people probably want refreshments while they're down that end. So I think you're so right about that. That sort of heat mapping and immediate data analysis is so good.
And it has been around a long time. I mean, the supermarkets have been doing it for many years, just to see, you know, where the product placement on a gondola end is particularly useful, or what part of the shop works. I mean, I was going back to your experience with the oil and gas, and obviously finding location of the units or any technology in a certain area. One really hot spot that we found recently is the help desk. We're very successfully working with several event organizers at the moment and their app developers and floor plan wayfinders to create a portable help desk, a piece of portable technology that sits on the help desk. So when people come in, we found from feedback talking to colleagues who've worked on the help desk that a lot of people come in and they're in a hurry. I've got to be on the C-Vent stand in 5 minutes. Where is it? It's a big show. And, you know, the sophisticated wayfinding developers now, they can put a pin in the map where the help desk is, and then you just say where you go, and it'll show you a little dot, you know, a dotted route. There's even one we saw a little while ago where it was on 2 levels and it showed you which staircase to take. You know, if you've ever been to Olympia and you get completely disorientated when you're at a show, you turn around, you don't know which is west, north, south, or east. And you end up, so trying to find a staircase and, you know, that ability to give people instant information at the point of, as you say, the point of need. I completely agree that people coming into registration, they're all, hi, how are you? Say hello to each other, having a coffee, registering. But when they're in a hurry and they come to a help desk, they come to a help desk because they want help. And technology is a great enabler in terms of creating a tool to show that floor plan, to show that speaker schedule, and to do it in a live format so these people have the information. And again, it just goes back to, you know, people will enjoy themselves more if they feel they've had a successful day. Yeah. So if they've been there and they had a list of 10 exhibitors to see and they only saw 4, or they couldn't find the other 3 or whatever, that creates frustration. And of course, the opposite of, you know, frustration is a cause of anti-joy. You know, you want them to enjoy. And so, you know, remove sources of frustration at the same time. And we, you know, more recently, this help desk collaborating with app developers and with floor plan and the venues as well as the organizers is proving to be a real winner, where our technology has found a whole new audience or a whole new purpose, if you like. And we're very, very buzzed by that, very, very much.
I'd just like to chip in on kind of use cases of location-based technology, heat mapping, all that sort of stuff. I spoke to a client recently. I can't reveal them because I haven't approved it yet, but they've got a really cool kind of application of location-based technology that they're going to roll out next year. It's awesome. So it's an AI event in America, and what they're going to do, because they're using Grip Smart Badges, which allows you to use beacons to see, you know, where people are on your show floor. They're going to see when someone goes into and out of a session, obviously, because they don't need to scan in and out anymore. It's just literally you get that data. If someone leaves because they've got to take a call 10 minutes before the end of the session, they will send that individual attendee a link to a video of that session and the slides bookmarked to that particular point where they left. And with summaries as well and all that good stuff with AI. So yeah, I think you've got all this amazing technology that can now engender love, because people are like, wow, that's cool. It's really just helping me, removing any friction and adding value to my experience.
And adding context. So,
Yeah,
you know, that
context, yeah.
positioning, it's kind of like it personalizes it. Personalization in marketing, schmarketing generally for years has been such an important factor. And a lot of what we do is we create branded units. So we build custom units for people like TikTok. We've done some branded units for different clients around the world. And personalization, it just makes people feel a bit more important. And if you want people to enjoy something, make them feel important, make them feel valued, that you're really pleased and happy to have them there at the venue.
Well, we didn't set this up in advance, Mark, but I'm glad you teed this up, because I've got a message from our sponsor, and that sponsor is Grip, because our next webinar is all about personalization. Yes, what a great segue. So everyone who's on the webinar right now, I would love you forever if you could just scan that QR code and come along to the next webinar. It's also on Grip's website. Come and join, listen to some amazing event organizers. We've got Gina from Mash Media. We've got Dorota from Grupa MP. I can never pronounce it. It's one of the biggest organizers in Europe. And we've got Rachel as well from Snowball, all talking about personalization. So yeah, that's going to be a good
Gina
one.
from Mash.
Correct. Yeah, Mash Media. Yeah.
Right, the ever effervescent Gina from Mash.
Yeah, she's great.
She's great, isn't she?
Lots of energy. That's what we need.
Again, it's really important that our industry is. If you want to know if our industry is fun, look at the people who are engaging in our industry. You know, people. You know, like our other panelists here and Gina, they're always a pleasure to see, always a pleasure to talk to, full of fun, full of ideas. And that's really, you know, we've had a new marketing apprentice join us only a few weeks ago, enjoying it immensely. I've been away for a few weeks, come back, you know, delighted to know she's still here and really enjoying the job. You know, there's so much in our industry that's so enjoyable. And if we can just try to unpick that and translate that into a format for attendees and create that better attendee experience. That's what we're here for, isn't it?
I just wanted to add to that just before we move on from this. I think you're right in that really it depends on one's objective, right? If it's a coming to learn and learn about a session, you need to understand that there is going to be a a participant type, a persona attending your events that potentially wants to come and attend the sessions and learn all the time. There's another one that wants to attend to meet up with old colleagues and things like that. There's going to be some people who are very busy, important, who want to attend a little bit, have somewhere to work. And I think making an event that attendees love is about understanding deeply what that sort of array of objectives and how not everybody's is the same. No matter how much as an organizer you want them to follow a path, you have to understand them realistically of who are those people and what will their objectives be. And if you can help them get to those objectives, do what they want when they want, then that is why they're going to love your event, because you've given them the space and it personalizes it. Okay, not to the individual level, but to, it personalizes your understanding of what the types of attendees you have want to do.
Very important. The ideal buyer persona is something that Aidan, our marketing guy, throws at us all the time within this context of this project or this particular job that we're doing. What is the ideal buyer persona? Sometimes I find it a little bit restrictive. And what you've just said, Abby, is that there is no single ideal buyer persona for the events industry. It's quite a diverse group of people and attendees. But there are things that you can do that will appeal to pretty much everyone. And that's first and foremost, make them feel valued and important and that you want them there.
So let's talk about how we actually measure it. How do we measure attendee love? How do you know the attendees that you've got are going to be the ones that love you? Abby, I'd love to talk to you about what metrics, how you can understand that, so you can maybe find other attendees like them, or you can maybe make them love you even more. What should you be doing?
I mean, I'm talking from a Grip perspective here because, obviously I have access to all my clients' data all the time. And some of the insights that you're able to see are, for example, who's added the most sessions to their schedule? Well, that's great. Go and ask them how they found the sessions, ask them in advance what they're looking forward to most. Just as Hugh, you've asked people who are registering for this webinar, small an event it is, what do they want to learn about? that's that's similar to what you can get with sort of data from your event apps as well, is kind of who's engaging with the content, who's had the most connections in your last event. Well, let's ask them how they found it, and what could we do more to encourage that. You can actually see who are the most popular attendees, and go after that kind of lookalike audience for future events. So we have what we call must meet events. So imagine sort of hosted bar events or pre-scheduled meeting events, let's say. You're able to see who's had the most preferences towards being met with, let's say, and that's going to give you a really good idea on the types of people you invite to the next one. So understanding the data, I mean, one thing I would say is, you're not on your own with this data, with any of your tech providers, or they can help you get to the bottom of understanding how people are interacting, just like Mark does with able to sort of give statistics on how people are using the tech. It's the same for us at Grip, where we can help you get an understanding of what the data looks like already, and even live in the run up to the event, what you might be able to do to help people meet their objectives as well. So just make sure that you use the data and insights that are available to you in the tools that you're already using, I'd say. And if you don't know how to, well, ask us, because we're more than happy to help.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree with all of that. And how do you measure? Because also there was a vibe check. One of our clients does something quite cool, which is send out a mini survey via notification on the app to say what's the vibe right now, and that might give you an idea of people who are vibing with the event. Will probably be the ones who love it.
So Ashley from Clarion, she had a brilliant one. I think I was on the webinar with her at one stage, where she talked about having these sort of vibe checks, as she calls them, and essentially miniature surveys that you might sit on your app home screen, or on the giant smartphone, the same thing, which takes people directly to a series of a couple of questions. What's going well for you? How could we improve? And that can be open the entire time throughout the event, allowing people to give you immediate feedback that potentially you can do something about. And I thought it was such a beautiful idea, very simplistic idea. Don't wait until afterwards to send out this huge survey. You can actually be getting that feedback straight away. So yeah, really encourage doing things like that, and I do with my clients now.
Is that something you would send out during the course of the event? So you can send push notifications through your app. Grip, we know, is a very sophisticated piece of kit, sophisticated app piece of software. Because being able to sort of ask people those questions during the event, actually, if nothing else, shows that you care about them, shows that they're important. And I did a piece in a CEO news thing a few months ago, and it was one of the things that came to my mind during the course of the interview was that Giant iTab were in exactly the right place at the right time, because when we launched back in 2011 with the Giant smartphone, a lot of the industry, we started out in retail, we weren't actually in events. We got drawn in because a lot of the industry were developing apps for event apps, and they were all wanting to showcase that at the show to give more accessibility to different people. I mean, our mantra has and always has been, and I can show it to you here on a brochure, is attract, engage, inform. Our technology is there to attract people's attention, to engage them in that interactive experience, and inform them about the event or the brand or whatever. And that was written within our first week of launching, and that is still our mantra today. So that's really important. So tech makes it more accessible, and it also allows more dexterity. People with manual dexterity, with sight problems, it makes it, I think the word is inclusivity. It's about making, I mean, the app is such an important fundamental baseline and framework to the event. And I find it staggering where some people, don't download the app before the event. I've just come back from IMEX in Frankfurt, and I actually spent quite a lot of time at the airport on the plane, just connecting with people a week before, and then and when I got there, I had a much better experience because I'd done some prep work. But of course, if a lot of people are turning up to the event, some of them don't even know there is an app. So a lot of things. So one thing we're doing now with the tech is we're putting the app on the Giant smartphone with a QR code. Download, tap for the app. You tap it. This is something we did with IMEX back with North Star back in the day. Tap for the app. Very simple message. And with iOS or Android or whatever, you just tap your phone, download the link to the app, go live, and then you're part of that community. That is the app environment.
I think
and it live is important.
I think that's really important what you said there, that accessibility thing. And I think more and more people are expecting, you know, there's neurodiversity in every industry that we work in. And I think people being catered for in that way, like you say, accessible, that it's accessible to everybody, that you've thought about their needs. So good example that I've got of this is the PAX events that we used to work on in the US. And they had what they called an AFK room, and it's for people who just need to step away from the noise of the show floor, because it's obviously lots of lights, it's a gaming show, by the way. So lots of light, video games and noise and people and costumes and all sorts, and being able to sort of cater for those diverse needs is really important, I think. So in that room, there are no screens, there are no noises. It's very simple, and Helen Moon does a great job of this with her wellness rooms. Event Well it's called, just if you want to look it up. Event Well come and they can run these sort of quiet rooms that allow people to just take a break, because some of our events can be very full on. So I think I think you're right, that accessibility thing is really helping all attendees love your events, not the few.
Absolutely.
Yeah, including people who are neurodiverse as well. And we're seeing that across a lot of events. The Games Industry Conference in Poland does the same thing, has kind of quiet rooms. I think it's so important to make sure that all attendees love your event. Let's have a quick chat about AI and how AI is being used, because Abby, you said something really interesting previously about, you know, a lot of organizers don't look at their previous events. And actually, if you take some data from your previous event, I think you talked about life science events are pretty good at this, and then feed it into an AI, you can get some really great objective-based suggestions of what you should be doing differently.
Yeah, I mean, one is being able to analyze survey data very quickly, and like Life Science Networks, who I hope they don't mind me saying, I had their event debrief today, in fact, and what they've done is they've taken the feedback from the surveys and just popped it into an AI, sort of generative AI, kind of like a chat GPT thing, to pull out the themes and grouped into, this is the feedback we're getting. So let's talk about these things in turn. And I think that's really important. It's a really easy way to analyze what's a lot of data. Now, to me, the moment we had this conversation with them today, the moment that their event ends, you should be already looking at the data and planning ahead for next year. So as we did the event debrief today, one of the things was kind of like, right, we will change this for next year. And I don't mean the product itself, but how we configure it, their approach to it in the run up, all of that stuff. You really need to be looking at how things have been before in order to improve them immediately post event, so you don't forget anything. And I know that a lot of shows have wash-ups and things like that. Sometimes wash-ups can be a long time before the actual kickoff for the next event. So having this documented so that you can start with what you learnt, documented in a really nice way from all departments, start with that, and then that's going to give you what worked very well, and it's hopefully you can build on that and do less of the things they don't like, so that your attendees love the next iteration that little bit more.
And I guess how AI can help with that, like Claude, I think they use that, and other technologies, Gemini, ChatGPT, is pulling out so much data. They can pull out the individual, personas that you have, because you talked about your journey at the beginning. It's not just mapping out one journey, it's for the different types of attendees that you have. And then get all the data to understand what happened at the end of that for each individual one, which is quite a difficult thing to do if you were to do it manually.
Sorry to keep going on this, but actually one of the things also that I think is really important is that as people sort of complete their profiles in the app or whatever, you're able to see let's say the products they're interested in or the services that they're interested in. You might ask them to complete some questions, whether that's during registration or whether it's sort of during the onboarding into your event app, whatever. But that allows you to then take your suppliers, so as long as you're asking the suppliers the same thing. So what do you do? This is where the filters on an exhibitor list comes in with Mark's software, making that very easy to search, making that very filterable down to what it is that you need. If you've got both sides, you know what the mix of what your suppliers do, and you know the mix of your attendees, what they want, what suppliers they're looking for. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a mix of, have I got enough suppliers to meet the needs of this audience? Have I got enough audience to meet the need of these 5 suppliers? And you're able to use that data to better build what we call the networking mix, let's say, of people who should be at your event, maybe that aren't, or suppliers that should be at your event that aren't. So having an understanding of your attendees to that depth is going to really help you to build out that event, grow that event in the right way.
That's really good insight, isn't it? I mean, yeah, looking forward, looking to almost matchmaking, you know, the supply chain with the requirements of the attendees or the preferences of attendees. I mean, AI from our point of view is all about building on areas of an event that saw the most interest. And as you quite rightly said, Abigail, that you know, actually analyze those that saw the least interest. I mean, the beauty, I mean, I remember a few years ago meeting Martin Fullard and talking to him about events and where the future's going. And he said then, I'm going back many years now, he said then it's all about data. You know, understanding that data, but also understanding the personalities that create that piece of data. Data is only as good as the person reading it, but and behind that data are layers of personalities and people and behaviors. But the data gives us insight into how to group that. And what you've just said now is I think very much something for the future that everyone can take on board and start thinking about in some depth, particularly now with AI. It's so helpful. You know, I mean, I know a lot of people are sort of anti the idea, but it's here to stay, and we must adopt it and adopt it for power of good.
So let's talk about other things we could do to boost attendee love. We talked in the prep call about moments of surprise and delight, and those types of events that are very, very good at that, and what we can learn from them. And sometimes they're not B2B shows, sometimes they're B2C. So Abby, could you tell us a bit about what you've seen there and why that's so important, please?
I think it's that added value that you give to people. They're expecting one thing, but you've delighted them with something else, whether that's, you know, I don't know, sort of popcorn on the seats of a theatre when you go into for the session, or, you know, these things that are a little bit unexpected, surprising, nice. Again, that bit of extra value that they feel that maybe they haven't paid for or weren't anticipating. And I think that's really important when you think about your event. It's easy to say, okay, we're always going to do it this way because that worked. But actually, how could you add that bit of extra value that they didn't have last year, and thinking creatively about it? And you know, I think that ability to think creatively about how people consume, wrong word, but you know, how they interact, let's say, with your event and with one another. If you can just notch it up that little bit more, then that's great. But I think it takes somebody creative to come up with those ideas. And I'm reminded that congrats, Mark, by the way, on your PR around the latest thing you did. But these creative uses of whether that's technology or something else, that somebody's thought about this in a different way, you know, so think about your event, try and sort of think outside the box a little bit with your event. What are people expecting? How can we flip that? Yeah, good friend of mine, Martijn Timmermans, he was you know, he was great at this, just getting, you know, flipping the model. So for example, if people walk into a theatre and are expecting chairs, well, there's no chairs, and there's you sit on the floor and there's a little bedside lamp next to every 4 people, and you talk to one another around this bedside lamp, almost like a fire, you know, like a fireplace or something like that. And just think these creative ideas that just surprise, delight, you know, it's not going to suit everybody, but most people will go, gosh, that's memorable, and you've really changed my opinion of this event.
And you saw that with, is it Comic-Con? You said we're very good at that, and IBTM.
So also these sort of entrances where you where, for example, the moment that somebody arrives at a destination, let's say, so Comic-Con was one example that I've seen, where the moment they come out of the airport, there's signs saying "Welcome to Comic-Con," even though you're not even in the venue yet. In the foyer of you know, of the Fear of Barcelona, you've got a flamenco dancer. You know, like these. I think these are just small, you know, small things that people go, "Oh wow, oh I wasn't expecting that. That's brilliant." So I think every event is unique. Maybe think about your industry and think about how you can adapt that. But yeah, Mark, I'm sure you've seen loads of things like this that are sort of those moments of surprising, delighting, etc.
Well, creativity is an enormous driver, and I think that that is something that we can all build on and spend a little bit more time thinking about. I mean, going back to the early days, we used to put in gamification into our touchscreens, into our interactive units, and we'd have, you know, like, if you like, a little treasure hunt where each piece would give a piece of information, and it would encourage people to use the app and find information about other exhibitors or other information that was accessible to them during the course of the event, and they could collect little badges, and at the end there would be a prize at the end of it. I'm going really, really simple, up to something quite sophisticated, such as as you quite mentioned, the Archewell event we did in New York a few weeks ago, where we're creating smartphones as a memorial for change, using smartphones to identify children who've unfortunately taken their lives as a result of damaged social media. So that's a really creative pitch that came into us for the Archewell Foundation through M&C Saatchi. And again, that's something that we're being drawn into much more. We work with George B. Johnson, Imagination, a lot of the experience agencies coming and asking us to create these smartphone experiences, because, you know, it's a very versatile piece of kit. It can run pretty much anything. And, you know, and one of those things that I thought was quite useful, IMEX did it very well with Ray Bloom in the very early days, who I think was the first person to bring out the idea of the hosted buyer program, Ray Bloom from IMEX. And they had this idea where if you weren't on a hosted buyer program, you could still join as an advocate to join a group that would be taken around to show the top 10 features of the show, be that a flamenco dancer, or be that a nice cafe sitting area or a wellness area. So sometimes people need guiding. And what you touched on earlier, when I got off the plane at IMEX in Frankfurt, there's people there with an IMEX board and an IMEX shirt. It's like, wow, suddenly I feel welcome. And I'm like 20 minutes away from the venue and it's not on till tomorrow. And those little things, those little, what we call finishing touches, those little finishing touches that just show, that give a lot more and and are really quite inexpensive. And they just need a little bit of time to sit down in advance of the event and throw some of those ideas around within a creative context. A lot of these great ideas probably come together sitting around a pub on a Friday afternoon, but that sort of environment where people can be creative and open that storyboard to a wider thought plan.
Well, I also think another thing we talked about was advisory boards, or having some sort of focus group for your event. So you gather all these attendees who love your event and harness that energy, you know, spend time with them, get them together, buy them some food with an Uber Eats voucher and have a Zoom call to talk about, you know, how can we take your insights and apply them to everyone. Talking about everyone, there are a particular type of attendees, aren't there, that we need to be really careful about, and that's first-time attendees, so new attendees. Why is putting energy into that so important, Abby?
I think you know, these are the people who are genuinely interested in the event. You know, they're coming along for the first time, but they don't already have their community around them. And so it's really important that you almost create that community with them. And Tamar from Gleanin is absolutely brilliant at this with, I think she actually set up a sort of WhatsApp group for various people that were attending the event for the first time. I think she started it maybe with a LinkedIn post saying, I'm going here for the first time. Is anybody else going for the first time? Shall we form a crew, kind of a thing. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Tamar, if you're listening to this. But yeah, sort of that catering for those first timers, because you can easily lose them, especially with the large scale events. It's just too much, you know. When you've got 400 exhibitors, where on earth do you start as a first timer? You might have an objective, but only a day to get that objective done. And I think having that extra guidance, exactly as you say, Mark, like that sort of, you know, walking tours or whatever it is, highlights of the show is really important to help create that community for them, to help them feel a part of it when they probably aren't feeling it when they first turn up. And I think also getting them in advance of the event. So, you know, creating those spaces, perhaps there's a meetup the first morning, you know, perhaps you put that in the agenda, first timers meetup or something in the agenda to encourage people to get together, meet, network, and then form little small groups and go and enjoy the event together. And guaranteed as well that a couple of those people might know some people, and then all of a sudden you're building that network out, which I think is really important.
I mean, on the flip side of that, Abby, I was at a show not many months ago that was, you know, advocating to be a tech show, and there was absolutely no technology around the show floor. And when we met with some colleagues of ours afterwards, they said, I said, well, how did you find the show? They said, well, really frustrating. You know, we were walking around the show blind. You know, we didn't know where anything was. There was just really nothing there to guide and help them make the most of their event. And they couldn't find a few of the exhibitors they went to see. And in today's day and age of technology, it's pretty tragic to see that you know that the organizers are investing in the exhibitors and the sponsors, but as this particular webinar is targeting, it's about making the attendees love the experience, because they're the backbone of our industry, and without them there would be no exhibitors, no sponsors, no events. And you know, so you know, to go to a show where there was just no information around there, and just you're walking amiably from one place to another, not knowing if you're going in the right direction. And one other point I just wanted to make is that it's been a bugbear of us for a very, very long time, and it's something I spoke years ago with Dan Edwards when he was a senior player within ESSA, is you know, let's get the venues to get good Wi-Fi in these places, because you know we're all smartphone savvy, and technology is a driver for business, and you know, particularly a new attendee will rely on having their phone and be able to communicate with each other. So you know, with the technology available today, I mean, we've just come back from a venue in Greece where they had the new Elon Musk Wi-Fi, and yeah, where they've installed this, and everywhere we went in this building, and we were like, you know, nearly quarter of, I don't know, 300 yards from the building, and we were still picking up the Wi-Fi. He's created this sort of, if you like, this global mesh around the globe where each satellite communicates, so there's no dead zones. Do you remember the name of it? The Elon Musk
Starlink.
Starlink. Thank you. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. And with that, any venue can put this Starlink in, and the cost is not inhibitive. We've just done it ourselves in one of our properties, and it is just phenomenal. So please, shout out to venues, please get Wi-Fi, get good Wi-Fi.
You know, I think we could wrap this up with one sentence: how to make attendees love your event. Get decent Wi-Fi at the end.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
That would help. That would help.
Okay, I've got to wrap this up. I've got a question that's coming from one of our audience. Any ideas on how to be more creative at corporate finance events? They often seem very serious. How can we make them exciting, different, and memorable? Well, Abby, I'm going to pass that one over to you while I share our amazing next webinar so people can join.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us a bit about that.
So actually, I don't think that's always the case. A good example is the digital accountancy show. Now, you know, historically, no offense if anyone is an accountant watching this, but you know, accountancy can be pretty dry, I imagine. They have created an event that's really about this sort of festivalization, I think we call it. I hate that term, but it is what they're doing, which is these people were not event planners per se, but had decided that actually the industry needed a shake-up and they wanted to do something creative. I would go and have a look at their website to have a look at what they've been doing, because I think they'll give some good examples, you know, something like that. So don't think that just because these certain industries are historically dry that you can't mix it up. I mean, people are people, right? So you know, when you're introducing these new experiences to help your attendees love your event, don't forget that everybody is human. You know, like we all like to have fun, we all like to play, we all like to discover new things in a different way and be delighted and be surprised, you know. So just remember that, I think, is, you know, they're not aliens, they're us, just in a different industry.
And also check out Julius Solaris and what he's saying about Money 2020, which is, you know, obviously a grip show. And some of the stuff Money 2020 does is obviously the biggest fintech show in the world. So it's a finance show. But they do crazy stuff. They've got DJs. They have an AI stage where the whole stage is emceed by an AI. So the AI comes up with the questions, asks the questions, comes up with all the topics. Yeah, it's really quite cool. And they have loads of other stuff. The other thing I would say is it's not always down to you. I would enable your exhibitors to come up with some really creative, funky ideas and things to do, whether that's running their own side events or whether that's doing something really exciting for their activation for their booth. often that's a great source of creativity. So yeah, B2B doesn't have to be dull, because as Abby says, we're all consumers at the end of the day. So it's kind of like B2B2C in a way. Mark,
So a few of
over
our
to you.
team have thrown some in here. I'll just throw them in as I know we're running out of time. But we had a finance show we were supporting some while back. They had like a blind date where suppliers were pitching their idea to different people, like the old Cilla Black blind date. That was quite fun. That was a fintech show. Also, one of the comments from the table here is bring in younger people, people newer to the industry, for that perspective on young blood and how do they see it, because they see things very differently. Different generations see the same things in different ways. And the other, I remember someone, I haven't seen them for a while, but there used to be where there was a group of people, a bit like a campfire, and you would throw this dice with a speaker in it. Do you remember that, Abby?
Catchbox.
Catchbox. Whatever
Oh, I've
happened
done
to
that.
That
I've
was
done that
very
before.
cool. Now that's a simple idea that would translate into any event, whether it be, and of course, it's all about picking up on the trends and bringing information about trends into the industry and stop it. The thing about finance is it seems so set in its ways. This is how it's done. This is how it's going to be done. Whereas new trends, new thinking, new young people coming in, talking about, recent topics and trends of the industry. That is always a winner for everybody.
Lovely. Well, thank you to my amazing panelists. You've been fantastic. Mark, how can people contact you if they want to know more?
You can contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, Mark Jones, Giant iTab. My email is mark@giantitab.com. And my phone number is on the website. Go on our website, have a look. We're delighted to talk to anybody around pretty much anything. And what else? Carrier pigeon. No, we don't do that anymore. And you'll find us. We're in a beautiful place. We're in Wandsworth Old Town, in southwest London, and on a Friday afternoon, you'll see us next door at our local boozer having a Friday afternoon drink. So you're always welcome to come and join us for that every Friday.
We'll be there tomorrow, Abby and I. Abby, tell us a bit about where people can find you if they want to contact you.
Through Grip. Come and be my client if you're not already. So I'm abby.cannons@grip.events. I'm also on LinkedIn. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me, just even for a chit chat, because it's nice to grow your network. If I can help with anything, let me know. I just wanted to say one extra thing, actually, plug for my friend's book, which is talking of these moments of surprise and delight. Sasha Fries, who's been in the industry for ages, she's coming out with a book in November, and there are so many ideas in it. I'm lucky enough to have had a sort of pre-read. There are so many ideas in it, and it's called The Chief Event Officer's Handbook, and I really recommend it. Like I say, you can pre-order it, I think, on Amazon, but having read this, I'm like, just ideas central. So make sure to get yourself a copy of that.
Brilliant. I think we need to get her on a future webinar as well. Sounds just like the thing we need to talk about. Okay, well, thank you very much for our lovely participants. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.